Ding dong.
Oh, and we are live. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're here, though.
Well,
I'm real glad you're here. Not only because you set all this up, but I've been trying to contact you about your vehicle's extended warranty. You been getting those phone calls yet?
nope.
You haven't gotten any of those phone calls?
My
You've
car's
been,
my vehicle is so old. It'd be more right to call it a sort of push cart.
dude, I get junk mail about the warranty on a car I sold in 2012 is getting ready to expire. You know, a few years back, well, no, it wasn't a few years back. It was late 2019. They were talking about doing a raid on Area 51. I want to find that call center for the extended warranty folks and do a raid on them and extend their warranties a little bit. I'd tell you, I'm getting tired of spammers. I'm getting tired of the fishing people. I'm getting tired of all the phone calls and everything else. Just a little minor rant here to
I'm
get
with you,
things
man.
started, you know.
I don't answer my calls.
Well, we don't either normally.
None.
We don't either normally. We have see, when I retired, we got rid of our cell phones. We don't have cell phones anymore. So all we have is our landline, and it's on an answering machine. We let the machine answer it. And if I want to talk to them, I'll pick it up and I'll answer it. If I don't want to talk to them, the machine's got it. But I'm not kidding you. We get calls all the time from Hilton Rewards, or you stayed in one of our resort. I ain't stayed in a resort ever in my life. I'm an Econo Lodge kind of guy.
You've never stayed in a resort ever?
No, never. I'm an Econo Lodge guy, man. I'm cheap. All it has to be is semi-flat so I can lay down and I'm good.
You've never woken up in a resort suite and you open your eyes and there's a maid and a butler there and she's got the little plume feather duster and she's tickling your toes while the butler is doing like this with a magazine and saying, "Sir, would you like your eggs over easy?" You've never woken up in that fashion?
No, have you?
No.
Okay, then. No, well, it's the constant collection and sales of data and all of these incoming flooding calls that I'm getting that I don't understand, you know? And it's like, well, you know, we're on the do not call list. Then you think about, wait a minute, these suckers don't care. They're not legitimate businesses anyway. What do they care about some list? They're just hoping to get that one guy who'll go, oh, that's right. The extended warranty on my Model A is out. So I better call back, you know?
I've got this theory, non-theory that's always spinning in my head, and it goes like this. There are people out there. I never underestimate people, although it's easy to do. You can easily assume that people don't know jack squat, right? Or that one is so brilliant and this and that. I have a theory, and this applies overarchingly throughout in my theory, in my head. And by the way, I always say, and I could be wrong, because I'm very aware of the fact that I have limitations that I'm aware of, and then I have limitations that I'm not aware of that maybe are obvious to others but not to myself. I'm aware of the fallacies, you know, and inconsistencies that humans can produce in conversation, in reasoning and all that. I understand that. So I have no way of, I don't have the gall to assume that I know more than the next guy. But there's an element in human society culture that actually, honest to goodness, in their heart of hearts, actually think that they're so darn brilliant that they know that everybody's a dumbass. And those are the type of people that think that they can get over on, you know, a whole slew of people across, you know, doing these sort of things. Propaganda works, but a nuisance is just a nuisance. Right. And a lot of people, especially with the advent of the technologies that we use today, they're kind of like tossing all those papers in the trash.
Well, yeah, they are. You're absolutely right. And it's also a new metamorphosis. I mean, it used to be just the spam emails. I mean, when was the last time you got a real spam email? I mean, you remember the herbal this and trying to flood your inbox with links to porn sites and stuff like that, trying to get people to
Yeah.
click the link.
Yeah.
You don't hardly ever get any of that anymore.
Click the link, Frank, or
Yeah.
push the button, Frank.
Exactly. You hardly get any of that anymore. If there's something, if somebody is sending you a link to click, they're trying to steal information. We've kind of weeded out and gotten rid of the people who were sending out the pharmaceuticals from India and what have you. We've gotten rid of that. Now they're after information, and we do it to ourselves because we're so we're so eager to give out that information. I had a little, it's a minor rant. I know it is a first world problem. I needed to print up some address labels today. And I didn't have the label design program on the other computer in there on the printer. So I went online to download it. Well, they've retired that software this company has. They want you now to sign up for an account with their streaming service, or not their streaming service, but their web service, where you can design right there online. And I just don't need another account. I don't want to sign up for anything else. I want the old software where I can go tell it what kind of label I had it, fill out the label information, print it, close it, and ignore it until I need it again.
You know what I'm thinking?
What's that?
I'm thinking that you are suffering from what we call technology generational gap syndrome. We have entered into an era where there are people that began technological, the world, and we had, and by the way, I'm with you on that, and we had a way of setting things, and now a generation goes by, and by the way, I don't even notice it, but all of a sudden now everything has to be virtual or in the cloud, whereas before we had this solid, and all of a sudden it's like, well, that makes me uncomfortable. And it's funny how far we've progressed out from those times to now, where everything is like, purchase your subscription for X company. I'm not going to say, but Adobe products and stuff. I don't like that either. I want it physically in my, physically in my computer. I want it in my domain, in my little space in my computer. And I don't want to have to be doing that whole bit with, repurchasing, I don't want subscriptions. I want purchased. I want to keep. I don't like it personally.
I don't like it either. I mean, I know this is an old man get off my lawn rant. It sure as heck is.
Well, that's what I was alluding to in a way, but within the context, yeah.
But we're even talking about technology and online technology. How the heck did we ever survive with one password? And that password was needed to get online. And you went everywhere else without needing another password. I mean, how the heck did we ever manage to get by? I tell you how we managed to get by. We downloaded the software. We used it when we needed it, and we ignored it when we didn't. We didn't have an endless parade of credit card charges because $12 a month is due every month.
It's too much, because it's like a perpetual chain of punishment. Because everything's on credit, so everything is now designed, or as if it wasn't before, but everything is sort of like aiming at, always on credit, always. And so it's like, okay, so, those days are gone now. I don't like it. And I don't feel like, progressing forward. I feel like standing my ground.
Yeah.
I don't want the new software. I don't want the new Adobes. In fact, the old Adobes, I use everything on them and still have tons of features that I don't even touch with those. Why do I need the new ones? Oh, because you'll get updates. Okay, well, I don't, not if you're going to have to pay like a continue. Yeah. I don't want to be chained. You know what it is? I think that you and I, and correct me if, we have a disposition towards not being constantly, perpetually indebted.
Yeah.
Call
Yeah.
me funny, but I'm going to throw
I
that
don't
out and see if that ball strikes.
I don't like recurring charges, you know.
No.
And I'm going to go ahead and name some brand names here. I used to think Amazon was the best thing since sliced bread, but I made one, two, three, yeah, I won't say major purchases, but three decent purchases in the last 2 days. And I did not default to Amazon. I went to another, just a store website, looked up the items, they had them, they were cheaper than Amazon, and I got free shipping. So I'm starting to look at other. I mean, I may be dropping Prime pretty quick. I mean, the free shipping is great, but if I can get it for cheaper and still have free shipping by going to a store's website, I'll do that instead and not pay $12 a month for the privilege of having Prime.
Hey, when you have, just as another example, when you have two frickin' internet providers, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you go to the one and you're like, okay, these are the services, and you're like, okay, and you're paying, and then you're like, well, I don't like that service. Well, you know what? You don't like it? Psh, okay, I'm going to go to the competitor. You go to the competitor and say, hey, yeah, this is great, this and that. And then you wait a second. There's a limited amount. You're being ping pong balled left and right, no pun intended, through this situation. And they basically have, it's good. I don't know who it was, but I think it was Steve Jobs that said that it's good to have a competitor that you can control. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a whole psychology behind it. And in a way, it's a total trap. We all need it, but it's a total trap. Like with shirts, let's say shirts, you could go to a bunch of different places and here's a shirt, there's a shirt, here's a shirt, there's a shirt, and there's a variety, and there's the same for so many other things, but there's certain categories where there's a total monopoly of the thing, but it sucks because there's no alternative. Whatever. I'm ranting.
Well, I don't have a problem with that. If you offer something that's absolutely special and you basically capitalizing on it, I don't have a problem with that. But when you're offering something that your competitors offer, you're more expensive. You can't really be surprised that people are going to jump ship.
Continue that thought.
But when it comes to downloading software and using, and we're talking about just a little label making software here. We're not talking about, a flight simulator or something like that. I'm just talking about something that'll let me print up an address label and go. Basically what I've discovered is I've got probably 3 different backups of 3 or 4 different hard drives, and I'm keeping those backups because I have the installer programs downloaded and saved. So if, like earlier today, I didn't have that program on my other computer, so I had to go ahead and grab one of the hard drive backups, take it in there. It had the installer program on it. I transferred that to that computer and I installed the program, all because I didn't want to sign up for another subscription service. I just am tired of being bled dry $12 to $15 per month. It's just craziness to me. I don't get it. It's to the point to where, I don't know, it's easier for some folks than it is for other, but it's getting to where the lines are getting blurred and it's getting harder and harder to tell who's the real subscription service and who's the scammer who's trying to get something out of you. So I just soon not do it. I don't do anything on mobile devices. I will not download your app. I don't love you that much. I just want to use this particular piece of software, print an address label and go. All right. Oh man. Well, let's see when he comes back. I've about rambled as much as I can. Enjoy a beverage while we're waiting. It looks like he's having equipment difficulties here. Don't know what's happening. I'm glad it's his edit. Let me take a look over here and see who's in the chat. We have John Cousins. Would if I could. Roger the Tinker, the man who helped me solve my cable internet issues. Let's see. Steve Nealon from Harneal Media. And Jamie Page, JP Woodworks. Best tune in case my ears start burning again. Oh, you heard that, did you? All right. Let's see. Jim Dockerel, how's going? How's things? And let's see who else we got here. Oh, Linda Lindsay. There you go. How you doing? Well, I know how you're doing. Did you have an equipment malfunction?
I did not.
Okay.
I'll tell you the truth of what happened.
Mhm.
I'll tell you. Well, basically, I'll tell you the end before the beginning.
Okay.
I spilled
Oh,
my frickin' coffee
no.
all over my desk, on the floor, everywhere.
So you just basically did housekeeping, huh?
I hauled butt. I was hauling. I was going, and so does coffee clean surfaces or?
Well, it is now. It does now. Well, it depends on how much cream and sugar you put in it.
I didn't put any cream or anything, but that's not the point. The point is that my dumb hand went like this, flap, and it went
Knock the cup over.
And dude, it went everywhere. I'm gonna tell you right now, it's one of my least favorite things to happen. I don't know about you. I don't know about you, dude, but it's one of my least favorite. In fact, I still have. Okay, so coffee ran under the like it ran over the edge and under, so there's like pooling under. So I got to clean it up. All over the frickin' floor. My dog sat there looking at me, like saying, "You dumbass." I said, "Well, what do you mean?"
And he don't like coffee, so you can't rely on him to clean it up.
He's totally not into coffee, so I've actually brought it forward. Maybe it's because it's warm, but
if that had been like a bowl of cereal or something, he'd be over there on it.
Dude, you should have seen. That moment, you've done it, right? I mean, how many of us?
Oh, good Lord, yes.
but why? Okay, so like, look, it's one of those things where your hand misjudges distances and you totally end up with a hot mess. It's one of my least favorite things, obviously. Least favorite. Horrible, dude. Well, I'll try to get over that.
And no sense crying over spilled coffee, except now you don't have any coffee.
No, I have a
little bit.
Unbelievable, dude. Unbelievable. And by the way, it's kind of like some things just so there's things that happen that really tease one off, that are so stupid, and you realize, why was I so stupid to do that? Do you have anything like that you could?
Only about 20,000 of them a week. I mean, you ever get up to go to the bathroom, either in the middle of the night or early in the morning, and when you come back to bed, you kick the bedpost?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, you'll hop around the room, invent your own language. It only hurts for about a month.
Uh-huh.
And the little purple mark on your toe never goes away. All kinds of junk like that. I mean, you ever go to pick up something you think is going to be really heavy and turns out it isn't?
Yeah.
And you just about launch yourself 6 feet up in the air because you're all psyched up for it.
Mm-hmm. How about this one? Have you ever been in and this is more towards our current state of, have you ever been working on something online or on a program, and instead of pressing the save button, you press close and everything freaking vanishes? Have you ever lost all your stuff?
During a power outage, yes, but I'm pretty good about saving.
Oh,
I'm pretty good about saving stuff.
So you've never
because I've played that game before. Usually, and thank God software manufacturers and app authors nowadays they have anticipated that command because evidently it's happened to them too. Because most of them asked, "Are you sure you want to close this now?" You know,
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Oh
exactly.
no, wait, cancel. I know I don't want to close that yet. I haven't saved it." So,
I mean, I got lucky on this one
mhm.
because my hand went duh, and it went forward and it splashed out towards me. So it because if it would have gone inward, it would have covered
Mhm.
the microphone, my keyboard, mouse, all the equipment, but it went out and towards the ground. So it basically was like you could say a coffee waterfall.
Yeah,
Um, not
deluge.
a deluge, not fun, but within the realm of bad to worst. This
Mhm.
was, you know,
Yeah,
yeah, oh yeah. Well,
yeah.
I'll tell you what, I got a screwed up water heater now.
Oh, great. That's just what you need.
So there's I don't know when it started, but I think it's been within the last 2 decades. It could be earlier, but now there's this thing. It could be earlier. There's tankless water heaters, and they're electric. They have gas ones as well. And the cool thing about them is that they occupy very little space, right?
Mhm.
Whereas a tank, normal water heater would occupy X amount of space in some sort of like
Yeah.
auxiliary room or garage or whatever.
Mhm.
In this scenario, well, heck, you could put it on a wall and it's about, I don't know, like just a foot in, 12 by 12 or 12 by whatever. And, but the problem is that here there's like that hard water.
Mhm.
And I believe I could be wrong, but it's gone, you know, it's on the fritz because of that. Because, yeah, I think it's because of that. But regardless, I've got cold water.
Yeah.
It won't heat now,
Mm.
and I took a
Well,
shower with the
that
cold
could
water.
that could be just an element. It's electric heater.
Hmm. Yeah,
That could be just a heating element.
could be. I mean, I could purchase a new one and
Yeah.
add.
Yeah. There should be a way to pull it out and test it.
Um. Well, I
I mean,
mean,
it's worth giving it a shot.
but it also could be the board, the controller board. It could also be
Yeah.
a thermostat. It could be lime calcium slash deposits.
It could be. But I
Like,
mean, but dude, it's worth testing that heating element if you can get it out and test it. It's worth checking it because I mean it's better to spend $40 than $400. Believe me.
I
So,
mean, so yeah, I've got to figure it out one way or the other. But and obviously with the
mhm.
lower amount
Oh yeah.
uh of the solutions available. But so I went and took a shower, and old school. I mean, I don't know back then, did they always heat their and take that, like in the old westerns where you see a blondie, fetch me another pail of hot water. No, was it whatever the water was? I went for the natural, water a la carte, of cold, and it was painful, dude. I was
Well,
working toes in and up and then a shoulder and going through here, and then I turned around, dude. It was a nightmare, dude.
yeah.
Those
Well,
salad spinners.
yeah.
The-
Yeah.
I felt like a piece of like lettuce, cleaned up, crisp.
Well, I was born in the 60s, but it wasn't the 1860s. So thankfully, I've always had hot water. We've also had demand hot water in one place we lived in Germany, and it was okay. I mean, there's some advantages, but there's some distinct disadvantages.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I don't play the cold shower game. No, not
No,
since I
no,
was in the army. I
but
don't do that. No.
oh, wait a second. They don't do warm water in the
Oh,
army.
they do warm water in the army, but when you're out in the field, you don't always have a place to go get a hot shower. You're, in a tent for 30 days with 29 other guys, and you don't always get a chance to go in and take a shower if you're on
Gotcha.
duty or what have you. So you learn how to take a bath in a canteen cup, and that gets you through.
Oh, okay.
So, you know,
What do?
or
You go for the armpits, the all the major spots,
well,
and then.
you start with your face, and you
Mhm.
wash down as far as possible.
Mhm.
Then you start at about then you go to your feet
Mhm.
and you wash up as far as possible. And lastly, you wash possible. So, but you can usually take a bath in one canteen cup of water, or
What would
a
happen if you
coffee
started?
can or whatever.
See, I have to remember that one. I just,
if
I just love it. It's so
Well,
fucking
if you
awesome.
start with possible, just think the washcloth goes to your face at some time in the yeah. So you just
You don't,
start with your face and
right,
work your
right,
way
right, right.
work your way to the dirtier
That's
parts.
hilarious, dude. That was great. Oh man, it was all worth it just for that, folks.
What I liked over here was Jamie Page when you dumped your coffee. The Jamie Page put in the chat. It was at that moment Eloy and Mark all of a sudden had something to talk about, and he's right because I was running out of stuff to say. I'm glad that you read it.
Well, well, well. Frankly, um, and by the way, Jimmy Page is here because I think well, apart from saying hi, I did reach out to him and mention to him that that we had mentioned his name, and I linked him to the previous episode with the timestamp. So he's listening to this, and we're talking about Jamie Page randomly,
Uh-huh.
and then you say something about, oh, Jamie Page is gonna here's we're talking about Jamie Page just like last week and whatnot.
Yeah, for the
And he
last 2 or 3 episodes. Yeah.
well, here's the thing. It sparked his curiosity so much that he's here. He said, I'm hoping my name gets called again. See, here's the thing about it. And by the way, Jimmy Page is a friend. And for
Mhm.
for those listening out in the interwebs, he's a buddy of ours. And he happens to live in England. And so we just, we find it pretty cool. And we mention him because we've had quite the conversations in the past. And we say what we think. And so I think that human beings, they love, I mean, it's a nice thing, right? If somebody's hey, Mark,
Yeah.
that show that, they were talking about you for like half an hour or whatever. I mean, you'd be
Yeah.
curious. Yeah.
Oh, sure you would. But it's just another reason to listen early, listen often to the Trampled Underfoot podcast. Never know who we're going to talk about. Always something nice. Unless you're trying to call me about my vehicle's extended warranty coverage, or you want me to download your app, or you want me to sign up for your service and pay you $12 a month for the privilege of printing an address label 3 times a year.
Well, I'll say that yeah, if those are the options, just don't bother, right?
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say anything nice about you. But other than that, yeah.
So I will mention Jamie Page has a show,
Mhm.
and it's a podcast that airs as well. I believe it's on Sundays around 6 p. No, is it 4, 5, 6? I don't know, Eastern Standard Time. It happens across the world on Sundays, and it's called Makers International Podcast.
Right.
So
You can
yeah.
find them on the YouTube. They record Sunday afternoons on YouTube. As look for Makers International, and it's a couple of guys over in the UK, a couple of guys over in the US, and well, over on this side of the pond, I think they've had Canadians join in the fun as well. But they give it a good go. They have great topics. They have good guests. It's a fun podcast to listen to. They also put out an audio podcast, and what you'll see is much like what we do here. They record live on Sundays, and then they take that video down. We leave ours up because we're gluttons for punishment, I guess. They take that video down, edit the audio, and that's released as the audio podcast. And I believe that comes out on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
So, and ours comes out on Tuesdays because, we're rebels like that.
That's right. We're beginning of the week heading towards the midweek hump kind of guys.
Exactly. We get in there before the bump.
Yeah.
So,
well, heck, that was good.
yeah, that was it. That was my rant. It was just we got that phone call this morning, woke Linda up. I'd like to talk to you about your extended warranty. Bite me, Bucky, and I'll show you where. And it just set me off. And I got to thinking, you know what? We need to have at least one rant per show, or we need to just do a rant show. What cheeses you off? You know, that
Everything.
kind of thing.
We could do it. We could do it right now. I'll tell you right
Okay.
now. I
Okay.
do not like people staring into my house. I don't like it. Neighbors. I don't like neighbors that are so loud that their private conversations are so loud that I hear them. When I talk and I have visitors, I'm not like, "Hey, Mark, how you doing?" You know, I'm not doing that. I'm like, Mark's right in front of me, so I'm going to talk to him normal. And I've always got, and regardless of whatever bad traits, which are plenty, I'm sure that I have in other people's esteem, I do internally always have a conscious sort of acknowledgement of other people's, you know, like sense of respect and space and whatnot. I don't like people that I always give people space in front of me at any line, and sure enough, they don't return it in kind. There's always someone right up on my. I could feel their lips. I mean, they might as well just open their mouth and stick out their tongue and give me an ear tonguing because they get so close to me. I always give a foot. And look, sometimes there's a sexy, beautiful young lady there, and I'm like, wow, look, that's a sexy, beautiful one. Guess what? Everybody, indiscriminately, I give them a human being space between myself and them at the very minimum so they can perform whatever darn tasks they have to perform. If I catch somebody's, I hate people that in a place that you catch their eye, and then like let's say it's another guy, and then it's a macho thing, and they'll just keep staring. Who's gonna unstare first and stuff? And like I hate that stuff. I'm like I just quickly wave and I keep. I'm not interested in all those the ramifications of all those social monkey interactions. I don't want it. I'm not interested in it. I want to do what I want to do without hurting others, and go about my business. But don't push me with your carts. So I hate a lot of stuff. I could keep going, but yeah.
Well, started that. Well, it's
Yeah.
probably a good thing you don't live next door to us, Dan, because
Why?
have I mentioned lately that Linda plays bagpipes?
Oh, okay. That would drive me, Linda. Linda, I'm gonna tell you right. Okay, so I'm gonna say this, Linda. I have never lived next to someone that plays bagpipes. I understand that they're very loud, and I understand that this is your practice. This is what you do, and that you enjoy. And I enjoy. So I can't make the equivalence of. I'll just tell you this, Linda. Next door to me, I have a group of people. No, I'm sorry, not next door to me. Across the street, that play the radio. So I don't know if there's an equivalence there, but they'll play it because you have a volume control with the radio. They'll play it so that my windows are vibrating, and it's but then here's what happens. Some other dude gets pissed down the block because he hears the same thing, and I'm sure his windows are shaking too. So he'll turn on his things with a slightly different rhythm, but both of them juxtaposed create a communal jungle-like, Watson, what the hell's going on kind of feeling where you're hearing all you need is torches and people in the street, and that's all you need.
Well, I tell you how you fix that, though. I'll tell you how you fix that.
I know what the answer is going to be. Go ahead.
And take your guitar and the biggest amp you got out there, point it across the neighbor, and do Van Halen's Eruption.
See, but that's the thing. See, that's the thing. Everybody is. See, look. Even so, I will play my guitar in the past. I'll sit outside acoustically, maybe electric, and even that, I'll turn it to a normal volume. I'm not interested in saying, "Hey, everybody around the world, look at me! I'm playing my guitar. I want you to stop what you're doing because I'm doing what I'm doing."
No. It sends a message that I can be louder than you. Turn it down. Oh. That's the message it sends.
Right. Oh, and going back to Linda, I'm not equating this to you. You're practicing your art, and I get that. But yeah, it would be. I can't imagine I'm playing and I'm here. I can't. How I mean,
It's loud. It's loud at the chanter, at the end of the chanter where all the magic happens. Card
right,
tricks usually, but
right.
where all the magic happens, it's 110 decibels.
Holy
And
smokes.
there it all pipers wear earplugs.
Yeah.
All pipers wear earplugs.
Even back then?
Well, the smart ones did. The stuff something in your ears, because if you're not, you'd get tinnitus or just go deaf,
I mean,
because they are loud and they only have 2 volumes on and off. So they're either loud or they're sitting and nobody's touching them.
that's a tough one. Okay, so listen. That's a tough one. That is a tough one. And guess what? We have to make the cover art for this. Bagpipes or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
For this episode. Something to that as a tribute.
Could do that.
I mean, well, whatever.
Whatever. I mean, you're the one that's going to do the artwork, and I never know what you're going to do. So, like last week, we were talking about animals and can they talk? And this morning, when I did the promotion of the podcast on our website, trampledunderfootpodcast.com, I saw that the artwork was basically a dog driving a car, which was cool.
Well, I figured, and I re-listened to the episode while I was filling out the notes and doing the art and stuff like that. And it was quite entertaining, because, what we do is, see, the whole idea of the show that we do is so that we do it, so that people listen and stuff and explore, it is what people do. And we touch all these different subjects. So what we do is we fill out a basic description, but it doesn't encompass everything that's inside the episode, proper. But we touch on
check it out.
You got to check it out, and it was really an interesting episode. Listening back, I enjoyed it. I would say that because I'm part of the episode. See, that's there's no way of being unbiased when it comes to the things that you're doing, because either you are trying to be fair about it, but you're still going to be perceived as I'm totally like saying, "Hey, we kick butt."
But we have one advantage that, see, if you only watch it over here on Facebook, holy cow.
Well, we do have a Facebook page.
We do have a Facebook page, but that comes later.
Oh, okay.
If you only watch it over here on YouTube, you're missing out on probably a third of it, because we like to play around with the edits, and we'll throw in sound effects and we'll change things up a little bit. So what you're seeing right now over here in the YouTube chat is not what you're going to hear on the audio podcast. I mean, it might be pretty close. Editing. It might be pretty close. But
depends on who's editing, Mark. It depends on
this is true. This is true.
Because well, go ahead.
I like to play with things. I mean, there was a couple of weeks ago where you thought you had said a bad word. And it was my edit, and you didn't say the bad word, but I mentioned it while we were recording here, that I'm going to make people think that you said a bad word by putting a bleep over that. And then I just decided while I was editing to add bleeps where they didn't need to be. So it sounds like we had a rough discussion, but we didn't. But I like to play with the edit like that and give people something to think about.
It's a funny thing, about communication and human beings, and I'm not so much by any stretch of the imagination a learned person in any particular, but I'm a curious person, and something just as simple as that you just said, and maybe it's just maybe it's a product of me being completely just zoned, or what I'm saying, where everything interests me. It could be a situation where I'm just totally delayed in my learning, and everything's amazing, or a continuous psychedelic trip that I never came off of. But the thing is that communication amongst people and bad words, and the way we communicate and the rules that we decide on as a society, it's an interesting subject in itself, because what the heck does it matter at a certain level? The idea and concept of respect and interaction, and a certain 4-letter word, this or that, to me, in a way, I understand it because I partake in the language discipline of not cursing in public and this and that. But do I really know why, and what's the implication of saying it or not saying it in respect to its origin and why? I mean, is the world going to come? He said something. Is the world going to? Why do humans? What is this that we've created?
Well,
What is?
you nailed it when you said respect, because there are certain times where certain words and certain things, certain ideas are just not appropriate.
Yeah.
And we as a society have decided that there are certain times you're just not going to say certain words in certain contexts.
Mhm.
And without going off onto a George Carlin routine about 7 words you can't say on television, which the list grew, but and oh boy did it grow. But we've just decided that there are certain things you don't want to say. Now, you're not married, so you wouldn't know this, but there is it's unofficially called a mother-in-law language.
Mhm.
There is a certain way you will speak to your wife's mother and her father that you won't use around other people.
Well, you don't have to be necessarily married to understand that concept, because there is the situation where you're around, let's say, easy example, buddies,
Mhm.
and then around, I don't know, your mom or extended family.
Right.
You don't have the same interactions, and you don't share the same jokes.
Right.
And this, yeah, okay, go ahead.
But
sorry.
there's a familiarity that you have with your mom and dad that you don't have with her mom and dad.
Mhm.
And you're trying to show them a certain level of respect above and beyond, because not only are you showing your wife that you respect them, you're showing them that you respect your wife.
Mhm.
So we don't even know we do it. It's just one of those subconscious things. A lot of topics of discussion are just taboo. You just don't even talk about certain aspects of your lives, and you don't even realize that you're doing it.
Mhm.
You use certain words and you eliminate other words out of your vocabulary. So that's just one example, but we do that all the time. There's a certain way we speak when we're conducting business. There's a certain way we speak when we're hanging out with our buddies. But that kind of shows off our adaptability to certain situations and how we can so easily flow from one way of behavior to another without even thinking about it. It's not even a conscious thing that we do.
Yeah, it's embedded. It's a straight. It's almost like when we grow up, we learn actual directives, um, how we should comport ourselves in society at large, and obvious things. And then there's this undercurrent of lessons that we're taught, that we somehow we're taught, or something happens, we notice and we take in, and or for fear of opening up to certain group of people, it's not applicable because of X, Y, and Z. There's a lot of unspoken rules that human beings live by that we all agree with for the most part, in order to have a healthy sort of society. And then the deviants of that are like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? And it could go from anywhere from dress. Like, let's say, what does it really matter if you're walking down the street in a nice suit, or in like some sort of, like, I don't know, freaking clown suit, with your pants down to your knees, and like a hat turned around. The perception, I get it, people, but what are these? We usually assume, oh, that guy's a total wig head,
Well, if you're going to the bank to cash a check, that's one thing. If you're standing out in front of an income tax place shaking a sign, it's a complete different thing.
Right.
So there's a time and a place for everything. So
No.
walking down the street in a business suit, that might be your Halloween costume.
Right. But the idea that these externalities, they do represent things, on a scale of normal to not normal, depending on where you're at. And we've come to the conclusion that this is the dress code, and these are, some of these things are voiced, and some of these things are just sort of darn obvious. But I'm just saying that we've created this whole universe of activity and interactions and stuff, and it's a lot of it is nonverbal, and
Right.
yet we abide by it, and I find it fascinating, just that on itself. And so cursing is one of those things where
Yeah.
we just know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There's a certain level of that. We just know that we're not supposed to. But then again, we're taught that as kids because I mean, I don't know how far back you remember, but I can remember getting smacked or getting my mouth washed out with soap if I said a bad word in front of my parents,
Mhm.
or they found out I said a bad word in front of somebody else's parents.
Yeah.
I remember that happening. So it's something that you learn. You're not supposed to say these words. We don't ever want to hear you say that again. Okay, mom, I'm sorry. And then but that doesn't mean you're not necessarily going to do it. You just don't do it in front of them anymore. So,
Right.
it is learned, but I don't know. I think it all comes down to civility and just trying to show people respect. Individuality is, I mean, that's one thing. I mean, if you want to part your hair from ear to ear and comb it over the front and over the back, now you watch somebody be doing that next month,
Oh yeah.
then go for it. But if you dress like a clown, you're going to be treated like a clown. Just remember that.
Right. Well, that part is because there's an accepted nonverbal and verbal, but I'm talking under the current. In reality,
Mhm.
you could be wearing I don't know, a tennis bandana across your head, from the '80s, and what the heck does it really matter? Does it really matter? Really, if you think about it, it's only like cultural signals, you
Mhm.
know. Oh, okay, you're
Yeah.
dressed with a suit, so I'm going to take you serious. Oh, this guy's got a so and such on. Well, we're not going to, give him that much credit. And there's all these layers of this but I'm just saying, in the substance of it, what does it really matter? Does it really matter? It doesn't
Well,
really matter. It matters on one level, but like,
no, it doesn't really matter unless you're trying to sell albums to a guy in Miami. Then forget it. He ain't buying.
yeah,
So. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're walking down the street in a 3-piece suit or a 2-piece bikini. It doesn't matter.
well, when you throw that,
You're just gonna attract different levels of attention. That's
yeah,
all.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. I'm just talking about. So I get that. Obviously, we get that, but it's interesting, the spoken rules, and I just use that as an example. Clothing. It could be just a number of things,
yeah.
And
Oh,
these are
yeah.
unspoken rules. But if you use these rules approaching someone and you show them respect, and they know these, I guess you could call unconscious rules, they are perceiving you approaching them with a level of respect and dignity,
Sure.
which they appreciate, and therefore, you know what I'm saying, as opposed to, hey, dumbhead, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But what?
Yeah, it just, I don't know, just common civility, I think, is the right way to go at all times. That's
Have you
just
ever
me.
have you ever cursed in front of your parents?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I can't tell you how many times. I mean, that's why it was so easy and so readily available with the washing your mouth out with soap thing. I mean, I had the cleanest mouth in 7 counties. I mean, because I was always, saying the wrong thing. And that was mom's answer for everything. And my mother, she didn't do this little, stick a bar of soap in your mouth and wiggle it around a little bit. And that was it. No, she stuck that bar of soap in your mouth, put her hand on your chin and thump, lift it up. And then she drug off shavings. You had soap on the back of your top teeth and a
Oh,
big old, and then she was gone down the hallway, and you get to sit there and cough and sputter and spit and rinse out and everything else.
oh boy.
You knew your mouth had been washed out with soap because it was literal. We're going to clean up that language, son. All right. Oh man.
Well,
The worst beating I ever witnessed was my mom did that to my brother. I don't remember what he said. And he was in his rebellious stage. And she stuck that bar of soap in her mouth, clamped down his chin, drug shavings off of the back of his teeth, threw that bar of soap down in the sink, and looked back up at him. He looked her dead in the eye, went and blew a bubble right in her face.
Nice.
I got the hell out of Dodge. I was out in the backyard before she even started yelling because I didn't want to witness nothing. I knew there'd be papers to sign. I don't know nothing. I didn't see nothing. It didn't happen. I was out the door and down the street.
That's pretty cool. See, there's something about the rebellious or the independent nature that I really appreciate, even though the right thing to do with your mom and this and that, but your brother wasn't developed enough to reason out, all these.
Oh, he knew exactly what he was doing.
No, I'm saying
he never did it again.
Well,
he knew exactly what he was doing.
Well, no, but wait a second. So he knows the basic thing, but if you reason out, when you're 30, 40, 50, whatever, and you look back, then the picture is a much greater scale and more you search, well, my folks, this and that. But at the time, you're like, I'm a rebel. I want to do what I want to do. And, and so, but there's something about that human nature where, you know what I'm saying? You just toss care, to the wind.
Yeah.
It was my ground.
It was a gutsy move. It was stupid, but it was gutsy.
Well, but okay, so yeah, I'm with you on that. But I love that that innate, and of course it varies in people to different degrees, but that human element of standing your ground and whatever it might be. We could go back in history, whatever, but just generally speaking, that contrarian nature of human beings that causes so much problems is also one of our greatest assets too, wanting to break from the fold. I don't know if you get what I'm saying about that.
I do, and I think a rebellious spirit in the face of dishonor, disservice, or tyranny or something like that is one thing.
Yeah.
But just being an ass is another.
Okay, I'm gonna check off that box and say that I'm with you on that. Of course,
I mean, you can be a rebel all you want to and put square tires on your car. Let me know how that works out for you.
Right.
You know,
well, I'm just saying that spirit of I mean, you wouldn't have some of the greatest. I mean, there were people in medieval times, that were of royal lineage and whatnot, that had it all going for them, but they wanted more, right? And this is terrible, by the way. This is the worst thing I could bring up as a comparable by far. But I don't know why I just like medieval times, where they weren't. What would you say? They weren't just well enough with what they had, but they would go and attack their their father's kingdom, to acquire even more and things like that.
Oh, but you're talking about greed there. That's completely different.
I mean, that's why I said it was a bad example.
If he would have been in the right and she did that, maybe I would have had a lot more respect for it at the time.
Right.
All I knew was he was fixing to get beat. And I didn't want to be any part of it, because moms and dads, when they're in that mood, things can switch on you. The worst beating I ever got was laughing at my brother getting a beating. So we deserved it. I mean, it's not like my father abused us. He didn't. My parents didn't abuse us. Mm-hmm. Every spanking I got, I deserved. I did something to earn it, believe me. And I'll give my brother credit. From about the time he was 9 years old, we both took responsibility. If we did something, we didn't try to lie on the other one. Not very much.
Right.
Because it's just, you'd both end up getting it. Number one, if he couldn't figure out who did it, he'd spank us both. Then say, well, I got the guilty one, and the other one got away with something I didn't see. And he was usually right. But, but yeah. Anyway, So, it wasn't abuse or anything. It was punishment for a specific act.
Yeah.
But he was getting his butt whipped, and I started laughing about it. And my dad got finished with him and says, "Oh, you think that's funny, huh?" The next thing you know, I'm getting mine too. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I
it's
mean,
just you couldn't win. So,
I don't want to say terrified, but I had a lot of respect. All my old man had to do would be to raise his voice,
mm,
and it wasn't even like he'd go no,
uh,
and he had a deep voice, and I'd be like,
yeah.
like so he maintained the order.
Mm,
Uh, Although there were moments where he'd go to the discipline,
mm,
but it wasn't for the most part. I was left to my own devices. I don't know if it's a consequence of being an only child,
mm.
and the consequence of their history. Um, I don't know. It's a weird thing because I was left to basically explore as I so chose, and it was assumed that I would follow the right path, which it was assumed, because probably they did so and their parents did so and so on. It was assumed that
Nah.
the new little Americanito of the family, because that's what I was. I was the first child born in America,
Mhm.
and it was assumed that there was a certain order and this and that. And hey, by the way, this is America. Of course, he's going to follow and I would skip school and
Oh
I
yeah.
everything under the sun. And it's like, because here's the thing, it was too strong of a pull. You're hanging with your friends. There's rock and roll, heavy metal, hair metal. It's too
Mhm.
much of a pull for a kid living in Sweetwater not to do all these things. And by the way, to get busted,
Yeah.
continuously.
Well, but I've had this discussion with my kids and my grandkids about it. There's a reason we didn't get away with that stuff. And that reason is because our parents didn't get away with it when they thought they invented it. And they didn't get away with it because their parents didn't get away with it. I mean, we can't really invent anything like that, you
Mhm.
know? I mean, maybe your parents never skipped school, but they thought about it. Or they played sick when the family wanted to go to church and they didn't want to go.
I don't know what the story
Or
was.
yeah, you have no way of knowing now.
I doubt. Um, I would have to ask my aunt, but
Yeah.
I doubt incredibly that they would have skipped, let's say, or something like that. And on as far as my dad is concerned,
Mhm.
the structure was very different, similar completely and different completely. And I think that in a small town like they were at,
Mhm.
I don't know that honestly, I think that they, to a great degree, assumed that their son would just completely be the fair. You remember those 50s, with the kid with the crew cut and with the book?
Uh-huh.
Sorry, Joey, I've got 5 books to read before
Yeah.
class, but I'll talk to you tomorrow at gym. All right. And that whole concept, they were from a different era, these people.
But
And I,
that wasn't real life then either.
I know,
I mean,
but
I know my dad got in trouble. I know he got in trouble for skipping school. And I know my grandfather got in trouble and got in trouble for skipping school too.
gee, Mark,
You
do
know?
you want to go play some baseball after school? Sorry, Joey, I've got to go home because I've got 5 chapters to read and then do some math.
No,
After
it
I
never happened. That didn't happen, man. That was in the movies you saw at school.
I'm,
That just
you,
didn't
you,
happen.
you are aware I'm joking though, yes?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, we all hold our parents up to a higher standard than we think than they actually deserve sometimes.
Hey, son, when
You
I was
know?
little, son, we used to climb up that mountain and go down to get to school, and
Yeah.
then on the way back, the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, they had to go uphill both ways. Kill a grizzly bear with a loose leaf notebook, you
Yeah,
know. And if they didn't shoot a deer on the way to school, the lunch didn't happen that day.
yeah.
Something like that. But you knew what was BS. I mean, I heard too many stories from my uncle, my dad's brother.
Yeah.
I heard too many stories from my mom's sister. I heard too many stories from my grandfather because he just didn't care. He would flat out tell me my dad was a little butthole growing up. I mean, my uncle told me that there were several times my grandmother got them out on the front yard, put boxing gloves on them, and said, "Have at it. And when it's over, it's done." And they would just have a big old fight right there until one of them started crying and walked over to mama. Then the gloves came off and it was done and over with. I love the thought of my dad and my uncle beating each other up out in the front yard of the house. Now grandma would go to prison for that.
Well, yeah, for sure. Now, forget it.
Yeah. But she said it was usually like 3 hits and one of them would start crying and the fight would be over. It's just
Well,
like, get it out of your system and quit crabbing at each other in the living room.
it's a funny thing, dude. I
It is.
was gonna say something from before that you were mentioning that was curious to me, but it totally slipped my mind, dude. I hate when that happens. I just can't recall it now, and it was a good one.
It could have been anything.
In my mind, it was a good one.
It could have been anything because we were all over the place today.
I remember.
Okay.
So, well, we did manage to attach a sort of a theme, or at least jump from one area to the other with some sort of coherent, a little bit. I mean, when you listen, it's a funny thing when you listen back to a broadcast, in the context of our level, which we're the ones participating in the back and forth.
Right.
We're at one level, but the listener is listening to this whole conversation unfolding, and naturally conversations go all over the place. We do have some structure that we don't even talk about.
Yeah.
That we have in the back of our brains, and we try to sort of like, keep ourselves within that. But what I wanted to say is that I believe strongly, and I could be wrong, but I believe strongly that I feel that I am 100% a mix of my father and mother's personalities, and the insistencies and the sort of like interest level of certain things and interactions, even mimicry, I catch myself, seeing myself the way my dad would talk, and I'll see myself and I'll say, "Holy smokes!" And so I think that we're a product of them more than we really. In other words, your dad getting into these little fisticuffs and this and that, and your behavior. I don't know if it's applicable for you, but I have seen my father in me as well as my mother, and I think that it's deeper than we're probably conscious of.
There may be something to that. Then again, we all know that we all have individual personalities, but if you wanna know for sure, talk to your relatives that knew both your mom and your dad and ask them who you take after, who you tend to take after, who you tend to talk like, who you tend to act like, your mannerisms, the way you walk, your manner of speaking.
I have to do that. Jim Dockrell asked, "Did your mom have any kids that lived?" If you're asking about Mark or myself, I don't know. As far as
It was supposed to be a joke. That's what I like to yell at people who like run a red light. Did your mother have any kids that lived?
Oh, okay. See, I'm thinking now in terms of what you're.
Yeah.
And then Roger says, "Oh, you become your parents." And look, I'll just say this one thing. I discovered a few months back a little small portrait of my great grandfather, and it's just a little tiny, like I guess an inch by whatever, half an inch, little portrait that was stapled onto a document from Spain, where he was from, and he died a long time. He was born in the 1860s or something like that, 1860s, 1880s, 1881 thereabouts. And I looked at it, and his face is literally my grandfather's face.
Mhm.
And in turn, his just looking at that little picture, his face is my grandfather's face, and it's also my father's face when my father became older. And therefore, I assume that that will be my face if I reach that age. I'll look just like that same look. There's obvious physical similarities, but I'm saying beyond that,
Yeah, it's
and it's been
possible.
and it's been said, you know, you take after your dad or you take after your mom, generally speaking of
Sure.
people, you know, in
Sure.
conversation. He's so much like his, you know, or like his uncle.
Yeah.
My goodness, I just can't believe the way he, so there's a lot of that.
But you're also going to find that it depends on which side of the family you're talking to. Like if you talk to your mom's side of the family, oh, you take after your mom.
Mm-hmm.
But if you talk to your dad's side of the family, you're just like your father.
Yeah.
You know, my
It
aunt,
depends.
my mom's sister used to tell me all the time, you look just like your mother. And my dad's sister used to tell me, you look just like your dad when he was that age.
It's amazing,
You know,
right?
and it's, we look nothing alike. I mean,
No,
you know,
the truth is more somewhere in between
yeah. Well,
because we
you know,
do share.
I don't
You're
know
not
where the I don't know where the blonde hair comes from. My dad had black hair. My mom was a brunette. I don't know where the blonde hair comes from.
well, but here's the thing that, well, you see, that's throwing a curveball into the mix, but
Well, but
it,
then
it
again, my dad's sister was blonde too. So
it doesn't have to be also just the fact of hair color and this and that. It could
mhm,
be like a nose shape,
mhm,
your cheeks, your
yep.
eyes, maybe the way you squint or look off
Mhm.
towards the side, or the way there's little things that
Oh, sure.
you may pick up because you see your dad doing as you grow up,
Mhm.
or there might be, and I'm saying might because that are just descended onto you from, you know, from just the family line. It could very, we don't know, but I think that there's a lot to be said about. I think that there's a lot of truth in that. I strongly feel.
Yeah.
Uh, let's see what Jim had to say. When we are all gathered, when we were all gathered when my mom died, I went for a walk. When I came home, one of my nieces was crocheting. uh, there was cooking, cleaning, all the things going on like mom would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you know, what can you say?
that's an interesting. That's an interesting thing. I I think there is a sort of connection roundabouts there. Um, I mean, to be further discussed, I would say I do want to mention that we do have a website, and it's trampledunderfootpodcast.com. And on that website, you'll catch a little button. You'll see a little button that says Wayback Machine. And we have a lot of different topics for those of you listening in for the first time. You could go there and check out a whole list of different subjects that Mark and I talk about. And so that's on trampledunderfootpodcast.com. There's also a Facebook page which we post pictures and links to things that we discuss while we're doing the show. We do the show live every Tuesday at 9:30 Eastern, as well as 6:30 Pacific West Coast time. And yeah, we're sponsored by.
Harneil Media, your one-stop internet shop. If he can't make you a website, you don't need one. Anything from just if you want to do a web store, you have items to sell. He he can hook you right up. He can square you away with merchandising, t-shirts, hats, etc., etc. Steve's the man. He knows what he's doing. He does it very well. And his websites are geared more towards makers, but he can handle more than just makers. And they're done at a maker pricing schedule too. I mean, he's not punitive in his pricing. He's very fair, very good at what he does. He does it very, very well. Harneilmedia.com. That's HARNEAL media. Look us up over on YouTube. Just go to YouTube and search for Trampled Underfoot podcast. As Eloy said, we're here every Thursday. Every Thursday. We might be here next Thursday. Now that I said that, I'm glad it's your edit.
Did you do that just to mess up my edit?
No, I did that because I got to thinking ahead to what I'm going to do Thursday.
Every Friday night we have ice cream and sprinkles.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a second. No, that's
Yeah.
not part of the show.
No, Thursday I got to get the trash out before it gets dark, and I happened to look up and saw the reflection. So anyway, no, we're here every Tuesday, as Eloy says. We record live, and then one of us gets to edit this down into something resembling a podcast, and that gets released Tuesday mornings. Just hit us up on Facebook, Trampled Underfoot Podcast, and you'll catch every Tuesday morning the new podcast upload.
That's right. And we'll leave off on this. Jim also concluded by saying everyone cried when I told them what I had seen what I saw when I came in. So he walks in and he sees all the siblings doing these things that resembled their mother, and he could see the similarities. So that's a very touching thing to end on. All right, Jim, thank you for sharing that, and we will catch you guys next time. Have a great week.
Have a good evening, y'all. Thanks for hanging with us.